The truth is that the Federal Reserve has a very blunt instrument, raising interest rates, lowering interest rates. That's the instrument. And we know that so many of these problems that are facing our economy are so nuanced. So much of them are supply side issues. You still can't get enough chips manufactured. We've seen the price of food go up. Wages have gone up, which is great in so many ways, but when costs are up even higher, that's the problem, and that's what inflation is. And so these are the things that I think we're trying to get through, and it's going to be fascinating to see whether he lands the plane.
So, Andrew, the jawboning, what happens if the jawboning is increasingly successful on Powell's part? So people stop the idea of buying a new car. People stop looking for a new house. People stop buying refrigerators or clothes dryers. What happens then?
Well, in a very strange way, that's exactly what he wants. If that happens, some of those prices start to fall, right? Food prices might start to fall. Energy prices might start to fall. We've already seen some of that. That I think is more related to the fact actually that people are worried that there's going to be less demand in the future. That's one of the reasons we've seen the price of gas go down. So, as I said, the very strange, it feels so weird, is that the whole goal is for people to buy less refrigerators, to buy less homes. And the question mark about all of this is how quickly does that happen? And does it happen to such an extent that it tips the economy over into a place that makes it very hard to recover from?
So, Andrew, bank CEOs, a lot of Wall Street heavy hitters.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Come on in. We're going to talk about a question that I've had for a while now. Good morning. Come on in. I know there's a way to do it. This morning we're talking about something that came out in Letitia James's conference on yesterday. I can't figure out where to put the topic in once you go live, so we're going to talk about Deutsche Bank and this man right here. This is former Supreme Court Justice Kennedy. Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy. Somebody says she's a beast. I just know some things, and I be having some questions. And I'm waiting for people to get into the room because Well, you know what? This live I am going to download. This live I am going to download and put it up over on my YouTube channel. He didn't die. He's very much alive. And I believe he's very much wrapped up in some corruption, some shenanigans, him and his son. So welcome everyone. If this is your first time here, welcome. Welcome to my regulars. Now, I didn't write down any notes or anything. I'm going straight off the dome. And y'all know whenever y'all chime in, it adds to the conversation. But this is former Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy. Notice I said former. He's not dead. He's not near death. He's not dying. I don't even know if the man is chronically ill. But I said former Supreme Court Justice. And we all know that Supreme Court justices are a lifetime appointment. They usually only resign once they get up in age and can no longer perform their duties for whatever reason. Mental issues, health issues, or they're dead. Right? We watched Ruth Bader Ginsburg hold that position until she died. Okay? Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy. Former. Under the Trump presidency, one day, former Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy announced he was retiring. Just out of the blue. Just out of the blue. And I asked the question then, why? You all remember that? And nobody is still asking this question. But early in the morning, that's when I do my best thinking. When you're laying there, it's still dark outside. It's not really time to get up. And I remembered yesterday, through all of the excitement of Tish sticking it to Donald Trump, I remembered she mentioned Deutsche Bank. Who is this that said, can you get to the point? Bitch, how about you get out? How about you get out? Listen, I'm not that creator. I'm not going to go back and forth with you. I don't support racists in my life. I don't support coonery in my life. I don't support disrespect towards me in my life. Period. You don't run this. I do. So, when I see bullshit, I'll block you. Period. Don't let the white glasses fool you. Don't let the educated black woman fool you. I'm not that nice. Hey, Petty Roll. I'm not that nice. Don't let this fool you. I'm not patient at all. Okay, where was I? During the Trump administration, during the Trump years as president, this man one day mysteriously decides to retire. And I asked the question then, why is he retiring? Because a Supreme Court justice is appointed for life, and they usually don't retire until, let me cover up my business, until they can no longer perform the duties of their office. And that's usually mental decline, physical health decline, or they die. Okay? So, he retired. And at the time, there was one news organization that said Justice Anthony Kennedy's son worked for Deutsche Bank. And that was Rachel Maddow's show. She made the connection between this man's son and Deutsche Bank. Rachel Maddow did. While everybody was running after Trump and all of his shenanigans, Rachel Maddow stayed true to investigative reporting and asking the questions. And so she was asking the same question that I was asking, but at the time I didn't know his son worked for Deutsche Bank. Now let me tell you what I do in a roundabout way in the real world. In the real world, what I do professionally is tied to the investment world. The investment world where there's trillions of dollars being invested amongst the big white men here in America. Trillions. I want you to think about your 401k. You get your 401k statement. They pretty much do all of the investing for you. But if you dig deeper and they allow you to see the investment funds that they're investing your money in, those investment funds are working with trillions upon trillions of dollars all across the world. There's investment funds here in the United States, investment funds out there in Europe, in the UK, Russia, all over the world. There are investment funds. China, specifically Singapore. Investment funds are all over the world. The bulk of them here in the United States. And so I first came across Deutsche Bank in doing what I do professionally. Now, it's about 10 years ago, 10 years ago, all of these investment funds, you have your local banks where you get your home loans, your personal loans, your checking savings accounts, right? You have some financial institutions that only work with providing home loans. You have some financial institutions that will provide it all. And some of these same institutions are now providing you with the capability of investing in these investment funds. But there are some banks that only house the money of these big investment funds. Trillions of dollars. There's Dun of Bradstreet, I believe, Dun and Bradstreet. There's Morgan Stanley. There's, who else? The Bank of New York. There's Citco. There's HedgeServe. These banks solely house the money for these investment funds. And one of those banks is Deutsche Bank. Goldman Sachs, Fidelity. You all seen some of the advertisements. They don't do a lot of advertising, but you've seen some of the advertisement, right? Because some of those banks have smaller divisions where they'll reach out to you directly if you want to do some personal investing, get your foot into the investment world and all of that stuff. But Deutsche Bank, it was one of those banks that specifically deals in these, holding the money for these investment funds. And about 8-10 years ago, in doing what I do, working directly with some of these investment funds, redeeming money, sending money, transactions that I have to do on the regular, starting up new investment funds for what I do, all of this stuff. 8-10 years ago, a lot of these investment funds started running away from Deutsche Bank. So now you understand why when I learned from Rachel Maddow that this man's son was connected to Deutsche Bank, my ears perked up. Because I know in doing what I do in the investment world that a lot of investment funds were running away from Deutsche Bank. Didn't understand it why everybody was switching over from Deutsche Bank to these other banks. Didn't understand it then. Then it came out that Deutsche Bank had been under investigation and was found liable for going against some regulations and stuff like that. And they were fined hundreds of millions of dollars for doing so. Whatever laws or regulations they were breaking. And as a result, all of these investment funds were like, we don't want to be tied to this nonsense what Deutsche Bank got out. Now, if you watch Rachel Maddow, under the Trump years, she continued her investigation. Right? She found that this man's son worked for Deutsche Bank and was the reason why Donald Trump was getting all of this money through Deutsche Bank. To the tune of, I think I saw early this morning, don't hold me to it, I be all over everywhere reading stuff. $800 million Deutsche Bank gave to Donald Trump. Close to $1 billion. You remember what Tish said yesterday? Tish said yesterday that Donald Trump was lying to the banks to get the funding that he needed over the years. This man resigned from his position as Supreme Court Justice just out of the blue. When this man resigned, it gave way for Donald Trump to put in Brett Kavanaugh. What is the connection between this man, his son, and Donald Trump? I think Tish dropped it yesterday. Everybody's asking, why would these financial institutions give Donald Trump this money when U.S. institutions had washed off Donald Trump? They refused to give him any more money. Y'all, thank you for the gifts. I'm just telling you what's spinning in my head and the dots that I'm putting together. Why would Deutsche Bank do that? Under the Trump years, the word on the curb was that Deutsche Bank was also known for money laundering for the Russian mob. Somebody said ding, 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 ding. Ding, 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 ding. Deutsche Bank is also known for money laundering for the Russian mob, allegedly. I don't know if anybody has proven it. I don't know. I do know. I think I heard yesterday in all of the commentary that some of these banks who loaned Donald Trump money are under further investigation. Remember I told you, Deutsche Bank, all of the investments that I deal with, they started running away from Deutsche Bank. Remember I told you that? That's from personal experience. I didn't know nothing about it at the time. Plus, I was green in doing what I was doing. I was just learning. But I will never forget when I heard Rachel Maddow connect a couple of those dots for me. Deutsche Bank was fined millions of dollars for irregularities. Now, was those irregularities and whatever they violated, was it tied to them possibly money laundering for the Russian mob? This man resigned from being a Supreme Court justice one day out of the blue, which opened up a seat for Donald Trump to put in Brett Kavanaugh. His son used to work for Deutsche Bank. I don't know if he still does. Deutsche Bank, who basically gifted Donald Trump $1 billion. They were the only bank willing to give Donald Trump money. This bank is also tied to Paul Manafort. This bank is rumored to have been money laundering for the Russian mob. This bank has been fined hundreds of millions of dollars. Reputable investment companies ran away from this bank, and this bank is tied to Donald Trump. Hold on, I see a Ku Klux Klan member in the comments. Let me get rid of him. I see another Ku Klux Klan member. Let me get rid of him. And so that's what's on my mind today, y'all. There's a few of them. Yeah. I don't think I didn't see them stealthily come into the chat. Somebody said I'm a victim, child. I love it when they make themselves known and I catch it. Somebody said keep talking. That's basically all I got. This man right here. His son's name is Justin Kennedy, I believe. Justin Kennedy. Justin Kennedy worked for Deutsche Bank. Justin Kennedy was the one, so they say, that ushered hundreds of millions, close to $1 billion to Donald Trump. Donald Trump will lie, like Letitia James said, Donald Trump will lie. He would inflate his assets to get the loan, but when it comes down to paying taxes, he would deflate his assets. Remember, it came out Paul Manafort was doing the same thing. He got caught sooner. That's what they're saying. I don't understand why they're asking that question. Who does the debt belong to? Deutsche Bank should be able to tell you who the debt belongs to. I am curious to find out this story. Because when this man, out of the blue, resigned, it opened up that Supreme Court justice seat. And it allowed them to swoop in Brett Kavanaugh, which shifted the entire Supreme Court justice. And they moved to overturn Roe v. Wade. This man right here, who one day out of the blue decided to go and meet with Donald Trump to announce his resignation from the Supreme Court. Who paid Brett Kavanaugh's debt off? Somebody paid off his student loans, and somebody paid off his house. Who paid that debt? Who paid that debt? Who paid that debt? Taxpayers didn't pay the debt. There's a lot of dark money funding being funneled to these individuals. Good morning. Somebody said the Russians. Remember, it was put out there that the Russians was funneling money to Republicans and Donald Trump through the NRA. There was a whole news, I think the New York Times did a news report on that. It was either the New York Times or the Washington Post. Justice Kennedy's son paid the debt. I don't know. Right, Aisha? The Russians are all up and through this government. Specifically, I would say the Republican Party. They're all Russian assets, in my opinion. They've all got some type of connection to Russia. They're all playing their role. So, going forward, these are the questions. Why did this man retire? Was he threatened? Was he paid off? Was he being blackmailed to let go of that position? Why was this man paid off? And why would Deutsche Bank loan close to $1 billion to Donald Trump? Why? Does his son still work for Deutsche Bank? I don't know. But his son was the one that funneled that money to Donald Trump by way of Deutsche Bank. You want proof? Go out and research it for yourself. I can only bring you to the water. I can't force you to drink. I'm not here to do that. If you need to be handheld, you need another person. I'm not that person. Go play with somebody else. Somebody says if bribery doesn't work, blackmail will. Google is free. And when they come in and say that stuff, or they start asking these stupid ass questions, it's to shift the focus. It's called sea lioning. Fuck you and your questions. If you got further questions about what I'm saying, go out there and educate yourself. Period. I'm not here to go back and forth with you. I'm not. Go play with somebody else. So why did this man one day out of the blue retire? And this man's son was the one that was loaning Donald Trump all of this money. This man's son was working for Deutsche Bank. Was Deutsche Bank money laundering for the Russian mob? Who paid off Brett Kavanaugh's loans? And why? Deutsche Bank is shady. Why were all of the investment funds that I was working with taking their money out of Deutsche Bank? What did they know? They knew Deutsche Bank was doing some shady shit and they wanted no parts of Deutsche Bank. And so all of the 10 years ago, all of these investment funds, because they have to send us notice. If we're invested in them, they have to send us notice on the fact that they are taking their money out of this bank and putting it into this bank, because then we have to update our records as well. We may want to send them additional money to invest in the fund. We have to have proof of where your funds are. So when they move their money from Deutsche Bank, and let's say they moved it into Credit Suisse or GMO or any of those other high banks, they have to tell us. So it was like it was at least once a day I was getting these notices of this investment fund is no longer using Deutsche Bank. We're now using this bank. And it just didn't click at the time. Didn't click at the time. I just figured maybe Deutsche Bank is no longer doing, maybe they're eliminating their investment division within the bank. And they're no longer providing that service to these investment funds. And like I told you, I was new to this field. So I was learning. It wasn't until Rachel Maddow did a show and was talking about Deutsche Bank being fined hundreds of millions of dollars. And then I said, oh, this is why they have been under investigation all that time. And this is why these funds started running away from Deutsche Bank. They didn't want to have any ties to Deutsche Bank. And justice moves slow. Running a proper investigation takes time. Because that was 10 years ago when I started noticing that. And Rachel Maddow, she was hot and heavy in the Trump years with her investigative reporting. And one of her pieces that she did was surrounding Deutsche Bank and his son. And it all just clicked for me early this morning. I've been up since 3 because my mind was turning. My mind was turning. Oh, this is why that happened. And this is why they probably was fined millions of dollars, because I remember they were money laundering. The rumor was they were money laundering for the Russian mob. And child, it's all it all connected today. This morning, I should say. Oh, I see a moderator has arrived and they blocking left and right. Baby. I was putting some puzzle pieces together early this morning. So much so I had to come in and talk about it. I'm like, And so the question that the media is asking is, who holds the debt? Deutsche Bank should be able to tell you. Deutsche Bank should be able to tell you. I spilled the tea already. I will download this live and put it up over on my YouTube channel so you guys can rewatch it. But this man holds some secrets. I'm wondering if there will be an investigation, or if they are investigating why this man mysteriously stepped down from the Supreme Court. And once we learn why this man mysteriously one day out of the blue stepped down from the Supreme Court, then we'll learn about his son's shenanigans. We'll learn more about Deutsche Bank's shenanigans, and if truly Deutsche Bank was money laundering for the Russian mob, and how all that ties back into Brett Kavanaugh, who paid off Brett Kavanaugh's debt. That's all I got, y'all. Thank y'all for joining me this morning. Somebody said he was 82. Not a conspiracy. Oh. Somebody blocked him. Because we ain't over here. We ain't trying to hear that nonsense. We ain't trying to hear that bullshit. Yeah, he was 82. So? So? Baby? Those people are blind and refuse to see. And I'm not here to try to make them see. And I'm not trying to hear their nonsense. I'm not. I want to know, when he went to the White House, supposedly, to talk to Donald Trump, I want to know what was said. You know, Justice Kennedy, I would love for you to stay on the Supreme Court. But you know, Russia, they need for you to step down so we can usher in this person, so we can further tear out the institutions of the United States. We all must play our part. Is that the conversation that went down? Clarence Thomas hasn't stepped down. He hasn't. But his wife, Jenny Thomas, has agreed to meet with the January 6th committee. Wonder what she got to say. Who is she going to blame her actions on? Who is she going to blame her actions on? Because all that I've seen and all of the emails and the text messages that I've seen from what they put out there, she was acting on her own accord. So who is she gonna blame? What is she going to say? All the other people who have testified so far, they've testified based on what they've seen, heard within the administration and how it led up to January 6th. In my eyes, Jenny Thomas is a part of January 6th. Who is she going to blame her actions on? Somebody said she will cry her white woman tears. We'll see. Somebody said she was complicit. Absolutely. I believe she was complicit. I believe she was thinking along the lines of those QAnon conspiracies and all of that jazz. And she had connections to these people. And so she was going to be an influence to get these people to do what she thought needed to be done. So it's going to be interesting. Every time Jenny Thomas or Clarence Thomas trend, I go on over and tweet, "Dear Clarence Thomas, today will be a great day for you to resign." Why he hasn't been forced to resign, I don't know. I'm guessing that can't be. I don't know. I know, can't the Congress impeach one of the justices? Why hasn't that happened? For all of you that are asking what's going on, head on over to my YouTube channel, Tabitha Speaks Politics. Once this does what it does, I will download this live and upload it over there. You can get all of my wheels turning and what I brought to the forefront today. It's a lifetime appointment, and this man mysteriously one day just stepped down, resigned. And the MAGA fascists will come in here, and the Republican obstructionists will come in here, and they'll say, he was 82 years old. So? Ruth Bader Ginsburg died out of her position. No known health issues. He just one day decided to resign under the Trump administration. So this Scalia, absolutely, he died out of that position. So I'll keep my eyes open. Thank y'all for joining me. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you for the hearts. I appreciate it. Thank you for listening to me, allowing me to share how my wheels were turning. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll keep our eye open. Give me an hour. I don't know how long this does what it does before it allows me to download and then move it over, okay? So give me at least an hour before you go over to Tabitha Speaks Politics. Child, they look at them coming in here. The damn started the KKK. Who the so the fuck what? Who's supporting the KKK now? Who's supporting the KKK now? So the fuck what? That means nothing to what's going on now. And you would never catch anybody like me that will say Democrats aren't racist. You stupid bitches. Donnie Deutsche stepped down from CNN. That's not shocking. We talked about how CNN was bought out by the Trump lover. And how things were changing over at CNN. They're calling CNN Fox News Light. I'm surprised Don Lemon is still there. Hey, Stephanie, I'm surprised that Don Lemon is still there. They have demoted him. They have taken away his show. And they have made him a co-host. That's a demotion because he was a host with his own show. They demoted him, took him out of the primetime slot, and put him on as a co-host in the morning. How long before somebody said Donnie Deutsche? I don't even think Donnie Deutsche works for CNN. Donnie Deutsche works for MSNBC, I believe. Don Lemon is no longer a white man. He got his black card back. He got his black card back. But I'm just shocked that he's still there. I'm shocked that he allowed them to embarrass him, to demote him, move him out of the primetime slot, and make him a co-host. Don Lemon has made some good money over the years. So I'm shocked. I believe any other news outlet would snatch Don Lemon up. But we'll see what happens. All right, y'all. Thank y'all. I love y'all. Y'all have a fantastic day. We'll see what today brings. We'll see what today brings. Y'all be safe. Later.